Hello, I'm Sterry and I'm doing a talk on being a carer and how I deal with it. In this area, I want to look at how I deal with it.
Yeah, so my name's Rachel and I've been working with Chris, so we're sort of doing this as a kind of conversation today, aren't we? And so in our last video, we looked at kind of your own situation at home, Chris. You talked to us about the support your daughter got. You talked to us a bit about the assessment that you'd had as a carer. So now we're looking at that kind of and how I deal with it. So I wondered if you could just kind of explain some of the ways in which, how you cope with some of the stresses, some of the difficulties that you have, what works for you, what doesn't work for you as a carer.
As I mentioned previously, you don't choose to be a carer. The person you care for is there and you need to do what you need to do. So it's not a matter of choice, and different people will deal with it in different ways. It depends on the age of the carer, the health of the carer, and the ability of the carer. Most people will do as much as they can, and in other instances they will then need support of different degrees. Myself, when my health was good, I had no problems dealing with all the aspects of care. As my own health started to deteriorate, partly because of my arthritis, but I also suffer with severe depression. And it's the severe depression that is a very important factor. You do find that being a carer, getting support is not ideal. It's not always easy to find, and when you find it, it may not be as well as it should be. A lot of areas say they will provide support, but it's a support from their perspective, not from a carer's perspective. So they're providing what they think you require, not what you actually require. As we're all different, and not one aspect will fit everybody. In fact, many different aspects will fit many different people, and they may require varying aspects to manage what they do. For myself, as I say, I suffer with depression. Most days I start feeling depressed, so I have to come over that and get myself in an ideal situation. Even though I've got 24-hour support, people would say, well, how is you getting depressed? But I see the support that I'm getting is not there for most carers, and it is only support providing care. The support to be a carer is one of the areas where there's a sadly lacking supply. It's promised, but it's not very well delivered. I've mentioned previously there's a carer centre, but first you need to register with the carer centre. And if you don't know the carer centre there, then they can't help you. Mm-hmm. So ideally, find a carer centre and register, and then you will be available to any support that they can provide. It's surprising once you get into what they can provide. It can be very surprising. Good surprising, not bad surprising. You would expect a council to provide this support, but in many aspects they're trying to support themselves with the cost-cutting procedures that are in place currently. So in many respects it's up to a carer to look after themselves, and unfortunately one of the main aspects a carer does not look after is their own health.
Yes.
They're so focused on providing care to the person that needs care and forget that they also need care themselves. So you will put yourself on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go down, it is not only the person who requires care that you will suffer, but you will also suffer yourself, and so will any other members of the family. So it's essential that you do bear in mind that your own health needs to be a priority.
Yes, absolutely. And what do you find, so obviously to play your own mental health and your own strategies that you have to try and keep on top of that, but for you personally, what is the most difficult part about being a carer? What do you struggle with the most?
It is trying to find support. Now personally, all the various support networks that are available, like counselling, medication for depression, do not work for myself. I've tried music, I've tried them all, and all the relaxation therapies do not work. So I try to manage my depression myself. If I feel depressed, I tend to go to a quiet area and work my way through it. If need be, contact the Samaritans and other organisations. And by doing this for quite a few numbers of years, the way I deal with it is, and because I've got the 24/7 support, I tend to put myself about within the council and the health areas. So I go to meetings with the local council, CCG, the Sheffield Teaching Hospitals, Sheffield Health Watch, and other areas, so that I can find out what's available, what people are saying, and then I use that knowledge to pass on to the other carers by the facilitating the support group that I do, and also the publication of the newsletter that I do monthly or like 2 or 3 times a month.
Right. So
that works for me.
Yeah.
It may not work for everybody else, so you have to unfortunately find out what works for you.
Yes.
Which, again, is not an easy process. I don't mind going to meetings, I don't mind talking, and I don't mind making myself heard, which again is something that carers don't wish to do. Carers are very reluctant to complain about what's happening because they're scared to lose whatever little bit of support they've got already. And when any person from the council comes or from continuing healthcare, they may give you an impression that you could lose what you've already got.
Yeah.
It shouldn't do, because it should be needs focused. But they know how much money is available, and with good intentions they may not be trying to give you a feeling that you can get what you want, and they're telling you how it is. But they need to know what needs are for the person who needs care, and they also need to know what the needs and requirements are of a carer. For to not do so, should the time ever come where there is sufficient funding, no organisation will know what the full cost will be. They'll think they know what the full cost will be, but it will be on a very restricted basis.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to get the information from carers who may be reluctant to give it,
Yes.
to actually find out what the full big picture is, and not just a small section of that picture, which is what is happening currently.
Yes. We've talked before, haven't we, Chris, about how carers can approach, how they do approach some of the meetings they have with different organisations, and it can either be that carers feel that they want to paint a sort of better picture, but then actually they maybe are masking all of a huge amount of the work that they're doing. Or the other way is to have to kind of paint the very worst picture, which can then actually come with some guilt, can't it? That people feel bad about painting the person that they care about in a very negative way. But it's all kind of trying to find ways through these meetings to get to what the person needs, isn't it?
Yeah, nobody wants to put a negative viewpoint forward. But if you don't show the negative, you will not get the support that you require.
Yes.
I'm not saying that you should tell untruths, but tell people exactly how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's sometimes that natural desire to shield and downplay what the carer is actually doing, isn't there? And then that means the carer could miss out, or the person could miss out on fully getting what they need and what they're entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And of course, you may not be fully welcomed by the organisations in doing that. There are some very, very negative attitudes from a number of organisations about what they feel about carers. But it's my view that everybody should be open, honest and transparent. And everybody should be working for the same goals, which is to provide sufficient care for the person who is the centre and who needs that support to live a reasonable life, but also for carers to also have a reasonable life. And if organisations are going into any situation with a negative attitude, they're not going to get that.
Where do you think those negative attitudes come from?
Well, carers are the experts within the home. They know their relative to a large extent inside out. But organisations may feel that the carer is putting some sort of slant on what they're saying, and that they're not actually working within the best interests of the person who's requiring care. And to some extent that might be correct. But to go in with that attitude means you're starting from rock bottom, a negative point.
Yes.
And it's my view that anybody involved in care has to be part of the team. And the person requiring care and any family carer needs to be part of the team and be looked upon as part of that team. Their viewpoint, opinions, etc. are just as important as the so-called professionals.
And do you think that's the case at the moment? Do you go into meetings feeling like you are treated as an equal, or is that not the case?
I go into some meetings where I don't feel I'm being fully listened to. I have a voice and I use it. So if I don't feel I'm being listened to, what about the people who aren't, or don't want to, aren't sure how they can project their voice?
Yes.
The system should be there for everyone, and every organisation needs to take on board that people have views. They may be in agreement with the views, they may be in disagreement with the views, but they are views, and they should be looked at, because what was done 20 years ago may not be the best way to do things these days.
Yes. Yeah.
We all need to go into every situation with an open viewpoint.
Yeah.
And to go with a closed viewpoint is really being negative, which you can't be negative in care. You've got to have a positive and open stance, whether you like it or not.
Yes. Yeah.